Hey guys, it's Shelly here. It's about 900 degrees in here. It's funny because we just had heaters on the other night and now we're like thinking about air conditioning. I just wanted to let you guys all know what's going on with me. It's been a few weeks of pretty much hell. After I went to the circus on St. Patrick's Day, 3/17, can't forget that. That night I came home and I got a really bad cold, and I felt miserable, but I know there's like a flu going around and they say it's really bad flu this year, so I thought I was just getting unlucky at the end of the season, so I just was grinning and bearing it and resting, and my husband was taking the brunt of it, good guy, and letting me rest as much as I could and stay away from the kids. And everybody else stayed fine, so it was kind of peculiar, but in a great way. So I thought, okay, we got past this, awesome, because that's like the first time that that's ever happened, where no matter what I do, somebody didn't get sick. So I just figured I was the unlucky soul, and at least it stayed with me, because it was terrible. But it was nothing like vomiting blood where I'd rush to an emergency room. There was no like cues to tell me this is something much worse than a regular cold or a flu. Go to the doctor. And if you're a parent, you take your kids nowadays to the doctors. They don't even give them anything anymore because their body builds up a resistance or whatever, and the penicillin and stuff, they don't like to give it to them anymore. So you basically go there, expose them to the germs just to find out they have what's going around, and you take them home. But in my case, I'm an adult, so I just figured, okay, it's the same stuff. I go to the doctor, and I will get probably nothing, and I'll just end up resting again and maybe get something else from the office. So I wasn't going to do that, and like I said, I was not happy at all. I was pretty miserable, but I wasn't, and there was nothing to tell me that, this was horrendous. So as soon as I started feeling better, like, I don't know, 5 to 7 days it took about, I was miserable, but I was alright. I came out of it, I thought everything was good, and then I woke up the first full day I felt good. The next day after that, when we were going to go for Easter pictures, and we did actually, my eyes started to swell, my eyelids, not my eyeballs. My eyelids started to swell, and I'm like, what the heck is this? So, I was a little taken off by it, but it was really gradual. So I made the pictures, but by that night, they just like got really big, and this was a weekend. I think it was a Saturday. Of course it's a weekend. So Sunday came, and, if you're on Facebook, you're all up to date on this, if you're reading about me. And my blog, I try to write, about what's going on and stuff, but I can't keep you as up to date as talking. I just, the next day, it was far worse. There wasn't a lot of pus and a lot of pink to my eyes, so there was no way for me to say, oh, I got pink eye. But nobody else had anything, so I'm thinking again, conjunctivitis, things like that, usually kids, they bring it home to us from school. So I'm thinking, nobody else has that, so that can't be it. And by Sunday, going into Monday, my under eyelids and, this entire area of my face was all swollen. It wasn't like golf balls, it wasn't like protruding, too badly, but I was getting really nervous. And for like maybe a little bit of a time, like maybe a few hours, I had some pinkness, not a lot. It really wasn't bad. And then they were clear looking. But by the time I woke up on Monday morning, it kind of looked like I had stakes on my eyes. They were bright red. I ran to the doctor, not my eyeballs, my eyelids. And I ran to the doctor first thing in the morning, and the one that I ran to first, no makeup and everything, and that's all saying a lot. Wasn't opening with doctors until 1, and it was like 8:30, 8:45. I said, no way. So 9:45, I got into a different place, and instantly he said conjunctivitis, and I said, but I don't understand that. My kids don't have it. I don't have, there's no reason for me to have it out of anybody else. And he said, did you have a virus or anything? And I said, well, I just got over the cold. And he told me that your sinuses can drain down, and that can be an after effect of a virus on your system. Now, as much as I'm told not to Google, I Googled that morning because I was really scared of the coloring, because I'd never seen it before, not in my kids, not in myself, nobody, so I was a little bit freaked out. And, so I looked it up, and it said something about, liver, possible could show liver or kidney damage through your eyes, and I was like, oh my God. There was no way for me to think that it was a virus to pink eye or conjunctivitis. I would never make that association because I've never heard of it or seen it happen before. So, you know, he set my mind at ease when I said, oh, thank God, it's not my liver, my kidneys or anything. He goes, no, then you'd be jaundiced if it was your liver. And I'm like, well, why did they say that online? And he said, listen, my daughter's pregnant, and she calls me freaking out all the time. I tell her, do not Google. If you're going to look at anything, look at the stuff that's only written by doctors, which is like WebMD and the Mayo Clinic, and I promised him that I would. But I try to stay off it because no matter what, my mind's going to go. So anyway, we went from that to him giving me a Tobradex prescription, which my kids have had when they have styes. You know, I've had, that's like a common thing around the house. It's like anytime you go to the eye doctor and they prescribe something, it's usually Tobradex for whatever reason. So I paid for the Tobradex, came home, started taking it, and by the afternoon, I noticed that I had like a pain in my knee. And it was peculiar because I wasn't really doing anything. I was taking it easy still. I was a little fatigued still from being sick, but not much. I just wasn't going out anywhere at that time with my eyes like that anyhow. I went to the doctor's with my sunglasses on. People probably thought I was like Jackie O back from the dead or something. But anyway, I felt a pain in my knee joint, and then where that pain was, suddenly a lump appeared. And on top of the lump, it started to get red. And I said to my husband, I go, what is this? And he's rubbing my knee, and he's going, oh, there's a tendon over here, so you must have bumped your knee, you know, roughhousing with the kids. Now, normally that could possibly happen, but I know that I wasn't really doing anything, so I try to believe him because I couldn't understand how that could be. I mean, I took gymnastics, dance, everything like that. I've had pulled muscles, I've had strained muscles, I've had, you know, problems before when I was younger. I mean, or like even just like doing too much at my advanced age. And, you know, I know what that stuff feels like, and this was just very peculiar to come out of nowhere. So then I noticed another spot on my knee hurting on the other side, and then a lump formed, and then there was a red nodule, and suddenly these pains went downward into my calves, and I started to get lumps all over my calves, and then they would become over hours red and very painful and very peculiar. And my husband's trying to tell me, oh, that's a knot in a muscle, you really did something to yourself, and I know I didn't. And I wasn't drunk, stumbling around the house, and then woke up the next day. It was nothing crazy, there was no house party, there was nothing, I was just sitting around doing nothing, which for me is honestly peculiar. When I do a lot, nothing happens. So he had me convinced that maybe from the virus I had been laying down for prolonged periods of time, maybe my muscles were fatigued, and that just doing anything really was strenuous and hurting my muscles. But then, overnight, I don't know what happened the next day, I couldn't move my shoulders, like I couldn't move my arms above this height, especially this left shoulder. And then it started with the right. It seemed like every joint in my body started to just cripple on me, and I was getting extremely panicked. Anybody would. I mean, come on. I mean, these things were just happening at a rapid rate. Now, the night before, I was having thoughts in my head about lumps and, you know, stuff like that, and I'm thinking lymphoma. That's me, too. I always grew up a hypochondriac of sorts, but nothing was ever really wrong. So now it seems like, you know, if I don't think of something, something can be wrong, and so, like, I'm thinking my mind is going to that because, what was it, a year and a half? It could be 2 years ago, time goes so fast, that I brought my daughter in who had eyelid swelling. She had facial swelling because she was allergic to something. But they found swollen lymph nodes in her body. And they told us, well, they told my husband I was home. But my husband then came home and told me, which was one of the scariest, very scariest. I mean, I can't, after burying a son, so I can't say scariest. It's like equal scariness. I can't, you know, I couldn't even begin to think about what this man said to my husband that night, that I've never felt swollen nodules like this in a person's body, like your daughter has, and it not be cancer. She either has lymphoma or leukemia. And he broke down, and the next morning he told me that. And it was hell. And thank God we had an appointment at her regular pediatrician that afternoon, who got the blood work and the chest x-rays back, and everything was, thank God, fine. She had a virus. So it was just a virus. The guy didn't even wait to get blood tests back. He didn't wait to get his chest x-ray back. It was just his opinion, and he said it outright. Now, I think he said, I've never seen it not be, she either has this or that. So my mind is thinking, probably not leukemia, but lymphoma lumps, a swollen, nodules, because I know the body is full of swollen glands, glands that can swell, so I don't know, exactly where they are. So, I just know they're around, so what if this was it? So my husband's like, no, it can't happen that quickly. Who the heck knows, though? Anything is humanly possible. But that horrible memory came back to me, and I'm like, maybe she got lucky, but maybe something's really wrong with me, and I'm going to die. Who knows? And I actually even wrote like a really sad, goodbye letter to my kids. I didn't know, because I didn't know if the next morning, if I woke up, I'd be able to move or not, because everything was going so fast, and more lumps started appearing. And then I started getting swelling, and I just I don't know. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor, this was another weekend. I went to the doctor, and the doctor, oh no, this was a Friday. I went to the doctor, and he looked at me, and he had one of his, the students that they're training or whatever, the interns, in the room, and he had her come in, and that was not good because I was so stressed out. I said, I do not want to know what my blood pressure is. I'm normally if I go to the doctor's office, my nerves, if I'm nervous about something, or even if I'm not nervous, I'm just very chatty, very jokey. I'm always getting the nurses rolling on the floor. That's just me. And when bad things happen, I have that same kind of defense mechanism where I'll laugh and I'll joke. So really, people can't figure me out most of the time. And suddenly, I start getting all emotional, and I couldn't even talk. The doctor came in the room, I couldn't even voice myself, that my husband had to pop in because I kept, every 2 words, I was in tears. And that's not like me at all. I've never broken down in my life, because I'm really serious. It was like I'm leaving my children, that's it. And, something bad's going to be told to me. It's I wanted to go to the doctor. The night before, my husband was like, you want to go to the hospital? And I'm like, no. Because if I go to the hospital, I went to the hospital once, and they told me something that I had that turned out not to be right when the blood work came back. So I was really no, I don't want to go to the hospital. Plus, I'll pick up something bad there, too, and I'll sit in the room all night long. I'd rather go see a really great doctor, my internal medicine doctor. And the nurse is like, this is not like you, Shell. You are not like this at all. What is with you? And I'm like, I'm just petrified. And so he came in with the intern, and he had her feel the nodules, and he's going, feel how hot it is. And then she's going, oh my God. And I'm like, oh, are you telling me today you have to bring somebody in here when I'm freaking out here? So, that panicked me because he wasn't saying anything. And then he's feeling around up here, and he started feeling around here and stuff. And then he went back to here, and he kind of freaked me out because he was spending a lot of time there. And eventually I'm like, what? Is there something wrong there? And he's like, no. He said, your carotid artery is a little bent, so it was throwing me off. I couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, well, is that okay? And he's like, yeah, that's just the anatomical, structural, whatever. I don't know. He says it's nothing. So I'm like, okay. So he quickly diagnosed it as something called Erythema Nodosum. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. Erythema Nodosum. It's just a word that I had to go back 3 times and ask him. I wish he would have just written it down. Because when I called my father wanted to know what it is. My father's pretty bright. But I wish that I had somebody who was a doctor in the family. I even told my husband I wish I married a doctor right now because I'm just falling apart. But he says that could cause the nodules, especially in the lower legs, and the joint pain, and fatigue, and I had all that, and I still have all that, unfortunately. And he said, but that's what I'm going to bet. He goes on, it's not going to be cancer. They took, well, my husband stopped counting vials at 8. It was, I think it was 12 vials of blood that they took, and they go, we're going to run everything. So, you know, they took a bunch of blood, you know, whatever, and I'm good with the blood. Take as much as you want after you have babies naturally. It's like, okay, pain is not really an issue with me. That's why me complaining about this kind of pain was extreme. So, you know, if I'm feeling it, if I say it's on a scale of 1 to 10 and 8, we're talking a 28 for anybody else. And, you know, so I just, like, was panicked and stuff, but he told me, he goes, it's not the steroid drop, because I stopped taking the drop the night before because I thought maybe, because a few hours after, that's when the knee thing happened. And so he goes, no, continue taking that to get rid of that infection. He goes, this is all part of a virus. He goes, usually it follows like a strep virus. And he's like, did anyone have strep in the house? I'm like, no, and that's contagious too. That, I mean, when you get that, usually the kids get it and give it to you if you get it. I haven't gotten it since forever. I mean, maybe 12, 13 years old. So even when my kids get it, I just don't get it. So, like, you know, I never would have known that. And he goes, don't worry, we're going to test and we'll see what the virus is, whatever. And so when I came back in to see the doctor again, he told me that my bloods were all good, which I was relieved, because I thought that means head to toe I'm fine, you know, internally, and that this is going to go away. And he said this could last 2 to 6 weeks. Right now I'm, what, about 2.5, almost 3 weeks in. So I'm thinking 6 weeks, hell no. 2 weeks, let's make it. And he says, you're going to feel this way. He goes, you can do what you're capable of doing. He goes, it could be, you know, it ranges from everybody, you know, very painful to, you know, dealable. Take an anti-inflammatory, drink a glass of water, you know, put your legs up when you can. And so that was that. And he told me, he goes, but just, you know, I want to make sure everything is on the up and up. And he goes, I want to refer you over to a rheumatoid doctor, which to me sounds like an old person's doctor, because I've only heard of rheumatoid arthritis. So he wanted me to go over there, and he kind of rushed me over, and he called over, so I'm kind of like a little nervous. But it was down the street, so I thought, okay, he's just trying to economize on my time or something. But I didn't know then. Then I started thinking he must think something else is going on. And then I got the paperwork, and he goes, bring this over. And he wanted me to get a chest x-ray. So I had to go get a chest x-ray. I had to go to this rheumatoid doctor. And the chest x-ray came back clear, thank God, because as soon as they ordered that, I said to him, I go, you're looking for nodules, because that's what they did to my daughter. And I knew that's what they were looking for. And he goes, you are too much. He goes, you are just too much. Stop panicking. So I said, okay. And so we went to the rheumatoid doctor then, and she looked at my chart or whatever, and by the time, you know, that I'd gone from the first time I went to the doctor to the second time, which was this few-day period, there was a lot of change. There was a lot more redness, a lot more lumps, and, you know, it was much more painful. Like, standing up, if I sat down right now on a chair, it would kind of like cut the circulation. It would feel like it's cutting the circulation, and it would hurt more. So, like, the only comfortable position I can be in is laying down with my feet up. So, like, standing up is like the second best, because once I get up from a laying down or a sitting position after any amount of time, it feels like all the blood from my body just went down, and it's just pulsating and throbbing in my legs and my ankles. It just hurts so bad. But, like, my wrist joints started getting affected, my elbow joints, my neck. I started getting a little bit of a headache. I already get occipital neuralgia. So, I mean, like, I was like, oh, God, I can't take anymore. I'm like, my life has just been horrible already. God, can you give me some peace, please? And so I'm thinking, okay, it's this Erythema Nodosum stuff, all right, let's try to get through it. My husband Googled it because I refused to, and he looked it up, the pictures, and he said, that looks like what you got. Calm down, you know, take it easy, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, every day I just woke up worse. And when I saw the rheumatoid doctor, she's like, I usually, you know, I don't like to give the cortisone shot, because she met me in the outside the office first, in her office, because she said I want to meet my patients before I treat them and see them. And so I met with her there in the office with my husband, and she was like, I don't like to give the cortisone because I don't like to mask any underlying possible infections or malignancies, and that's all I needed to hear inside of my head to panic without her knowing it that I was panicking. And she looked at the blood work and she said, well, I don't, she goes, they tested for a lot of stuff. He goes, but there's a lot of stuff that I usually test for that they didn't test for, so I'm going to do that. And I'm like, oh my God, you're telling me I'm not in the clear with my blood work? I was like, oh damn. So they're like, it's good that your chest x-ray looks good, so let's send you down to get more blood work. She goes, but I don't like to give the cortisone because if I give it to you and you have an infection or a malignancy or something like that, it can mask it on the blood work. I don't know anything about that. She goes, it could be this Erythema Nodosum. It could be, she said some S word or something. And I said, well, what do you do for that? And she goes, well, that's like usually decades or lifelong steroid treatment. I'm going in my head, hell no. I remember a girl had Crohn's disease. She took steroids. It ruined her life. I'm like, But I had to go and ask the question, right? So anyway, I'm thinking, I just wanted to know what she was rattling off, and I picked the wrong thing, I guess, to ask her about. But then again, malignancy, she goes, I don't think it's cancer. I don't like when they say it. Just don't even bring it up. Don't say the C word. The C word freaks me the hell out. All right? Too many people I know affected with the C word. It's just them. And it just makes me cringe. I know, like, 1 out of 2 people eventually get it, so I kind of like panic over it. And, I try to take care of myself. So my body falling apart on me when I'm used to being, out there and the happy-go-lucky mom at the park swinging around on my legs, doing cartwheels and being the fun one, it kind of like, was a bit of a downer that I felt like I was about 150 years old and nobody could understand me. I felt like I was on that show that used to be on the Discovery Health, the mystery diagnosis I used to watch that I couldn't figure out. Because then when I looked at the paperwork from my other doctor that brought me over to the Rheumatoid, it said possible Erythema Nodosum. And I'm like, what do you mean possible? These 2 doctors basically said it. So I didn't know what that meant. So I'm like, oh, that means that they're not 100% sure. So anyway, she takes me to the exam room after telling me about the cortisone, and she has one look at my legs, which I'll share pictures that I took with my phone in the office, and the ones that I took a few days prior, and she looked at it and she said, that's very impressive. Well, I know that certain things can look impressive. My legs certainly did not look impressive in that office, so I did not have a clue what she could mean by that, except I don't want to say, that's pretty gnarly. That's pretty bad case you got there. That's what I'm figuring impressive means from a doctor's point of view, when the way she said it and the way she looked. And she touched it and she said, that looks very angry, she said. She goes, that's very painful. I can tell by looking at it that you're in a lot of pain. She goes, I'm going to give you the cortisone injection. So after saying she doesn't like to give it, she was very ready to give it. So instead of like thinking I had, okay, maybe a regular case of this stuff, now I have like, and it is very painful. So she gives me the injection in my arm. She's like, you are tough. I'm like, that's nothing, please. I don't bat an eye at things like that. And she sat me downstairs where they did take 12 vials of blood, and they were just vials everywhere. And those ones, the guy just told me they were 12. He's like, I hope you had a lot of water this morning. And I'm like, not really. So I was like chugging down some, and I had a little cookie, and I treated me nice down there, and so then she says you gotta wait a week being tomorrow. So I'm petrified about tomorrow. I want to sit in the car and have my husband call me by a cell phone after talking to her in the office, or at least me sit in the lobby and have him go in, because not only do I feel like a jinx usually, but like I can't bear to hear anything like that. Anything else could be wrong. I just want to hear that, and that's it. Because I'll show you pictures of my feet from a few days ago. This is when I came home, took off my Uggs, and this is what my feet look like. okay? That looks nothing like my feet. I've had regular pregnancies. I had a twin pregnancy. My ankles and feet never swell a day in my life. Never once has my ankle or feet swell. So this is extreme swelling that you're seeing there. I mean, you would never know if that was my foot or my feet. And so that's happened in the interim between seeing her and now. And after giving me the cortisone injection, she said it could take 24 to 48 hours to feel any difference in that. The pain should be much, I mean, like really gone, basically. Well, that's not true. About 48 hours, I started to feel a little better in certain areas of my body. Like, I can go like this, but when I wake up in the morning, I can't move my arms up. I actually have to take a Percocet in the morning just to be able to, like, walk around and go get my 7-year-old helper get dressed for school. Because after sleeping, I guess that's when I wake up the most stiff. And then if I can get through the morning, then I'm good with pain meds for the rest of the day. I might take an anti-inflammatory. But it's just hard because when I sit down, I stand up. If I lay down and I stand up, there's so much pain still. And it's like different kind of pain. It was like a throbbing, intense pain that I couldn't, like, I was screaming, literally screaming from, to a pain, and I don't scream during labor, natural labor. And to now like a pins and needles, like a annoying yet grueling kind of pain, but it's better, but it's still not good. And the swelling issues have happened since I saw her, so I'm a little nervous about that for tomorrow. Much worse than anything I had prior to seeing her, and which that wasn't really an issue, very minimal before seeing her. And like I can, like if I put my hand on my calf bone here, or whatever you call it, shin, I guess, I don't know, I can't think. That hurts, bringing up my knee. Usually I can put my leg up to this guy, but bringing up my knee, it hurts. And my shin bone, if I grab it like that, you can see, like, I thought I had dents in my legs. I thought I had permanent dents all over my legs. I couldn't understand what was happening. It's swelling so much in my legs. These don't even look like my legs from the knee down. They're swollen, especially at the shins, that at the bottom by the ankle, that my finger imprints are left. Any imprint, like even my pants, it leaves an imprint in the fat that I do have on my calves, and it stays there, and it's like it creeped me out until I figured out what was going on. So it's edema of some kind, but not just in my feet and my ankles, but even there where I could grab it and, like, you know, I won't even step on a scale because I probably gained like 20 pounds in water weight or something. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know what it means. So that's freaking me out, but I'm not looking it up. My husband just wants me to lay down and take it easy, but the nice weather, I want to get out. So I try to go out with my kids and play and stuff, and then I pay for it by 5, 6 o'clock. I'm miserable at night. I'm miserable every time I wake up in the morning. And my knee joints, they feel like I was a pro athlete my entire life, and now I'm ready to do Bengay commercials, and I'm 65 at least. But I'm really, the normal person would feel like that at 100. And just like aches and pains, and the cortisone didn't take away all of it, so I'm just like nervous about why that is the case. And my husband's like, oh, you know, maybe she'll give you more. And I'm like, I really don't want all these cortisone. I just want, like, you know, to go run its course, like they say, and go away. So I have no idea what to expect tomorrow. She's testing for things I've never been tested for. My mind is wandering. I'm so achy. The cortisone didn't fully do it like I thought, so I'm really kind of nervous about why. I'm nervous about why my feet and ankles and shins, the imprints that could be left there, they, you know, they go away, but it takes a while. And it's just the freakiest thing I've ever had to deal with myself personally, and I just really appreciate the support that I've gotten, because it's been very, very, very tough on me emotionally, because I've been through so much in life. I've lost so many people close to me. I've endured my son's health issues and then demise. I mean, there's just nothing in the world worse than that. So me dying wouldn't be worse than that. But me leaving my children, I just can't even think about it. You know, it's like, I thought the more you have, the less fearful you'd be about leaving them, but that's not the case. It's actually quite the opposite. The more you want to live. I remember when there was a time this wouldn't scare me at all, and I'd be like, come on, God, take your best shot. When I was young and sad about my life and had nothing really going on in it. And now I'm like freaking out, you know. hoping to be okay. So I'm asking for your prayers for me tomorrow at the rheumatoid doctor, and you know, she said that if the bloods come back normal and this is still there, which it is because certain ones are improving, but around the knees I'm getting like, my knees are very swollen now. And my knees are swollen, and there are a lot of lumps all around them, and I don't know why, and they look ugly as sin, so I'm keeping my pants on. I haven't even been able to shave my legs, so I kind of feel like a disgusting creature. But, you know, so I don't really know what's going to happen tomorrow, and I'm nervous about it.